families and victims are still finding that their own government, our government, the U.S. government, is standing in the way of justice. And that's not a metaphor, like literally standing in the way. A group of them, people whose loved ones were killed on 9/11, are suing Saudi Arabia for its alleged role in the attacks. But federal officials in this country still, for some reason, will not declassify a 2012 report that detailed Saudi ties to the 9/11 hijackers, and there were many ties. According to the Department of Justice, providing hope and closure to the families of victims would somehow endanger national security. Presidential candidate and Congressman Tulsi Gabbard will respond to that in just a minute, but first tonight we want to talk to two men at the very center of this. Chris Gansey and Brett Eagles have both lost their fathers on 9/11, and they're in the group suing the Saudi government over this. They join us tonight. Gentlemen, thank you both for coming.
Y'all need to listen to this.
I want to know, and I'll just go this way, am I overstating the degree to which the U.S. government is standing in the way of getting this information?
No, it's been 20 years. Like, there's no reason why the government has declared state secrets on something that happened 20 years
So what are you
ago.
looking to find?
Well, I mean, personally, I want to find the truth. Did a foreign power assist in the murder of my father 20 years ago and 3,000 other Americans?
So Tucker, I just wanted to say this. First of all, thank you, because you're the only host on any cable news network that's had the courage to talk about our story.
It's such an obvious
so you deserve
question.
credit.
Like, why don't we know
You
the
deserve
answer?
credit. And if the president is listening tonight, and I hope that he is, he needs to know a couple things. Chris and I shouldn't know each other, okay? Our government failed us 18 years ago, and they're failing us again today. Our FBI failed us 18 years ago, and a couple weeks ago they invoked state secrets against us, which is the first time it's ever been done in any criminal case in the history of this country. What are they protecting?
On behalf of the Saudi government.
On behalf of the Saudi government, our FBI, and I want to say this, most of the FBI, they are good people. They're good Americans.
Yes.
Chris and I, we're very patriotic people, but to learn that the leadership of these departments, the Department of Justice and the FBI, are choosing the Saudis over us is nauseating. It makes me sick, and every American should be sick. And we are so grateful that presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard is the first one to stand behind us.
Well, I can feel the pit of my stomach. You know, acid's getting released. Just thinking about this, it's so infuriating. But what do you think it's about?
I think they're either one of two things. Either they're covering up their own malfeasance,
Yes.
or they're covering up the complicity of a foreign nation state.
Yes.
Both of them are equally terrible.
But why would look, we're not, I don't want to get over our skis, but we do know the overwhelming majority of the hijackers were Saudi citizens.
It's way more than that, Tucker.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have concrete evidence that nobody's talking about.
Tell me.
Our government has it. There's the 2012 FBI summary report. It's not about Iran. It's not about Iraq. It's specifically about Saudi Arabia. Our FBI has thousands of documents that they're keeping secret from Chris, from me, and from the American public that they're not releasing. This is not a woe is me, oh, I'm sorry I lost my dad, I'm sorry for this. No, this is 18 years on, and this is about truth and justice, and every American should be concerned
So the
about this.
report exists.
This is the very thing that I've been trying to tell people about, that people sniggered up, laughed about, and made fun of. I was right about everything that I have made claims of pertaining to predictions of either electrical disturbances, a bloody road ahead, to the point of now a president that, symbolically speaking, has his head on a chopping block towards our government impeaching him. I was also right about 9/11, who masterminded it, and they're still at large. Yes, Baghdadi, Big Baghdadi, he was a ruthless, cruel, evil, wicked SOB. But there's somebody over there in Saudi Arabia that will top that 1,000 to 1. That is nothing more than Lucifer walking around with a head, a body, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 feet, 10 toes, 2 arms, 2 hands, and 10 fingers, 2 eyes, 2 ears, that looks very much like us, but actually come from the seed of Lucifer. those was the ones that caused the cart to be turned upside down towards turning the apple cart over and causing everything to go chaotic since 18 years ago. That was done on my last and second from last, because I married her twice, marriage anniversary, as well as her birthday, September the 11th. Listen to the rest of this. On Halloween, this is pretty gory.
Yes, and you just want to see it.
Our lawyers have it. Our lawyers have it, but the FBI and the DOJ and the State Department submitted the information under seal. So how disgusting is that? Where Chris and I don't even know the name that's in these that are in these reports, but
One name. That's
there's
what
one
it's
name.
brought to us.
There's one name.
One name of high-ranking Saudi official.
There's a high-ranking Saudi official. There's a hierarchy of command from senior-level Saudi official right down to the hijackers.
And you guys lost your dads on 9/11.
And we shouldn't know each other, but we're here together, united.
And our
fighting for
government
fathers.
is taking the side of the Saudi kingdom over you.
I wish we were lying.
I don't think you are lying, and I'm grateful that you're here, and I hope that you will come back, and I think it's worth pressing. I don't think any fair person listening to this could side against you in this. I really don't.
Thanks, Tucker.
Gentlemen, thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Congressman.
There you go. I'm not the only one that has these feelings and believes in these thoughts of mine.
He's still there.
In the Treasury Department, he could have called up Steve Mnuchin and said, you know what, give me a list of the most corrupt players in Ukraine. I'll talk to the president about it. He didn't. The only thing he cites as a favor is CrowdStrike server Biden.
You've seen a select curated group of witnesses, and you haven't seen the transcripts. We don't know what they said.
Well, we've seen the transcript.
Of their opening statements.
No, we've seen the transcript of the president's phone call, and it says the favor for us, the favor is servers and another one,
We're going to
Biden.
get to see in this process. You're going to get to see all the information. It'll all be laid out.
Let me tell you honestly what I believe. I think you are an incredibly smart guy. I think you believe. Well, no, I'm not saying that as and I respect your positions, but I think you believe you got to circle the wagons, just like after the Access Hollywood tape. You're either with us or
You're so
against
cynical.
us.
You're so
no,
cynical.
I'm not. I
You're
think you
so
got to.
cynical. But it's not. No, because here's the thing.
I think you're
Now,
going to
here's the thing.
overlook.
This is
you know what?
this
So
is
he lies. So he's doing this. He's doing good things in your mind, and you support him.
Anderson.
Why can't people argue that? That I understand.
Anderson, but I am arguing the fact that I don't think he's done anything wrong here. I think this is a huge opportunity cost for the country. Okay. Now we're going to spend the next 12 weeks, instead of focusing on Hong Kong, instead of focusing on
I hear you. That's a valid argument.
This is going to engulf, your show, this whole network is going to be overwhelmed in a firestorm covering this between now and the end of when they impeach him, and they're going to impeach him. They're going to bring 2 charges, okay? And then when we go to trial, it's going to consume that. It's going to consume much of the political world to hurting the United States. Okay, which could be doing other things right now. And all I'm saying is that I've set up a war room so that we can get the information and people can weigh measure. We're going to have Democrats on there.
Democrats would argue with you saying, you know what hurts the United States is using taxpayer money as a weapon against an ally who's fighting our enemy. And it's not like it's Donald Trump's money buying information about the Bidens.
Was Joe Biden a constitutional officer when China happened and when it happened in Ukraine? Was he not the point man for President Obama in Ukraine and China?
Yes,
should China and that not be investigated before you give money of corruption, of at least American corruption in Ukraine?
If you cite some specific thing, there's been no evidence. The president hasn't cited any evidence. He's just throwing this out. Well, he's not. He's just all he said is, and in China too. He hasn't cited anything. There's no facts.
I'm sure that will come over time. But in China, we have the facts. Okay. You know that the private equity firm of what your son was not an expert in got funded around the time of 2013.
I'm not defending
You are defending.
No, I think a kid being on a board. I think it's shady. I think it makes no sense.
It's shady. It's corrupt.
Well, I don't think Joe. There's no trading of Joe Biden benefit in any way. I'm not.
No, his son. This is
Right,
where his
but
son's
there's-
his,
right, if you can give me evidence,
his
give evidence. But there's nobody's given
Have
evidence.
you read
so
Sacred
far.
Empires? Have you?
I have not. No, I have not.
Well, we got to sit there
Okay,
and talk about
but-
it. I would love to come back and start giving you the
You do
evidence.
not agree the premise of my question. So let me just give you just
don't.
in general.
And it's not circling the
Okay,
wagons.
no,
It's not circling
okay,
the wagons.
okay.
This is, I think,
But
this
in
probably
general,
for the good of the country.
if a president does in fact have a quid pro quo for a counterpart in a country that's in badly in need of aid and is fighting a war
You're asking
and says, no, I'm not asking about Trump. I'm just saying, is it okay
no.
for a president of the United
First off,
States to ask a foreign president
There's
to investigate a
no
political
evidence.
rival?
There's no evidence at all that there's a quid pro
I'm
quo
just-
here.
okay, I'm not saying-
And if there was a quid pro quo,
Okay, so
on something
you won't answer just a hypothetical of is it okay for a president, any president,
No, but I think
to ask a foreign president
I think
to
Andy
investigate a
McCarthy,
political rival?
Andy McCarthy and other constitutional scholars are coming out now and saying this whole concept of not even having not making your foreign aid or your military assistance contingent upon some
I just
acts.
don't understand why
is wrong.
Republicans will not ever answer that question that I just asked you. Like, okay, any president asking another president, investigate my rival, and I'll give you aid. Is that
It's not
okay?
a rival. He's a constitutional officer at the time. That's what they're
So
investigating.
that's okay.
American,
So you have no
American,
problem.
American involvement and corruption in either China, Ukraine, or anywhere in the world should be investigated.
All right. So
And I'd love to come back here and walk you through the evidence on China and the Ukraine.
All right. Well, nobody's presented real evidence. Steve Bannon, I appreciate it. Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks.
I really do. Up next, we premiere a spinoff of the Ridiculous franchise. We'll be right back.
The world needs to know Brazil by Brazil. We believe in sustainability, preserving over 60% of our native vegetation. We have the world's most impressive biodiversity, with over 100,000 animal species and 40,000 plant species. Over 70% of our energy sources